Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome back to the Bang Shishigami Project, part number 20 something. All bad, I haven't uploaded the last couple from my laptop to my desktop, so I kind of forget what number we're on at this point. But 20 something. Where last time, remember, we had a better session, and finally added the folds onto the sleeves, so that in this session, we can finally go and focus on those good shoulder pads we have going on here. But first, I just spent the last 10 minutes kind of smoothing everything out down here because it was a little rough at the end of the last section. But what I didn't notice before, or at least I forgot to look at before, was if we come, and just as on the pants we had to add the line down here, if we look across onto the close-up of the sleeves there, we need to add a similar line that comes down the sleeves. So it's going to be much easier doing anything added on these sleeves before the shoulders go on. So let's go ahead and do that. And the reason I shout out these numbers during all the recording sessions is that I can always go back and double check what those numbers were so I can make them the same thing again. But I didn't go ahead and double check what I did last, so I think we were something like a 4 last time thickness on my scale of, does this even start at 1? I believe it's in millimeters. It does start at 1. Scale of 1 to 7, I believe that was a 4 we did the pants on. So I'm going to do the same thing for these sleeve ones. So I think if all goes well, this could be actually a fairly expedient session, and if that happens, everything goes by perfectly, I can work on this piece that pops on, this stupid looking piece that kind of pops on to the end of the gauntlet, which I'm probably going to have off when he's on display anyway, but that is always something I can do depending on what kind of time is available. But if not, I'm not hard set on doing that anytime. That might just be in my final detail-y kind of things, as just one of those things that should be done at some point, but I'm going to keep putting it off kind of as long as possible because I'm bad. And or I'm just really not super sold on that detail. It's only in a couple of the images of him. Most images don't have that. Again, if you're playing the game, you want to do grapple stuff, you're gonna need 2 free hands to grapple somebody with and do throws and whatnot. So even in game, he doesn't have that detail going for him. So I'll get to that one when I get to that one. I think he looks fine right now without it. And I'm actually just cutting a bunch of these strips in the hopes that 1 or 2 of them are actually the right width. Because when you're dealing something with this kind of like this skinny, it's very easy to make this too fat. And then you don't want to use something that's too fat. Like these first two. These first 2 were just cut too fat. So we're just not gonna, we're gonna put them aside. I see 2 that are a little skinnier. I'm gonna put those on this side. I'm gonna just move you out of the way. I can come back to that eventually. Let's bring you on in here. Oh, look at that handsome looking face right there. And let's see, so if we go to the profile view, it's kind of running down, looks like the top of the arm. But when we actually look at a zoomed in version of this one, we're coming more down the side. So if we're going to go off this view, let's just go down the side. Alright, so the fun part with doing this is you try to get it into these little crevices as much as you can. Because when you see that folding, that really kind of sells the whole effect that you want to sell. So with that, I can pop that off. Then we want to get to the end of the gauntlet, and that's as far as it goes. Now, before the next hardening 2, one of the things I want to do is I need to kind of put stuff in here But that one's going to be 100% done off camera, because that's going to be a lot of back and forth. You're not going to see what's going on. But effectively, I'm just going to be adding little bits of clay kind of inside the middle here to kind of just re-stabilize things. When I did the bottom, I just doused the entire bottom part of here in the super glue. So I know none of that has been wearing away. So if anything, I've just been kind of wearing away a little bit of the inside. So I'm probably going to do about the same thing for that. But visually speaking, when doing this stuff, it's not really going to add much, I think, to making this look good, bad, or the other. So I'm just going to hold off on that and just do that part off camera, which will be disappointing to you, I'm sure. But it's my project. It's the way it's going to be. But realistically, it's just not going to add anything visual to it. You know what's going on, and that's just is what it is. And I actually want to come a little more to the side. I would rather this not go right down the middle of that. So we're going to come a little more off to the side and kind of terminate over there. Which, this is where, ironically, really don't have anything going on. So cool that. So that's in there. It looks like it wants to have just a little bit of a seam down the middle, so we can do that. Again, just very lightly. It's one of those details that if you see it, that's cool, but I don't want it to be in your face. So I'm just doing a real light. Something that's actually on camera, so that part's cool. I think I was generally on camera last time, although I didn't do my usual kind of post-production flip through of anything, so I have watched 0 of last time's videos so far. I said usually part of my post-production is I'll at least kind of get myself a general feel of how things turned out. I'll do a quick walkthrough just to kind of make sure things were centered on camera. Not that I'm going to do anything about it afterwards, I really can't. But I'll at least do like a quick kind of walkthrough on camera just to make sure things kind of worked. It was nice. I was audible. The camera was focused on stuff, which generally speaking, the camera's been, I think, better at being focused on what I want it to be focused on than it has been in the past. So I'll take that. But yeah, no, didn't do it last time. It's only like an hour or so since the previous video, because this is how Saturdays work. And I'm having one of those very kind of lazy Saturdays. Maybe that's because I did the half marathon run last night. My body is just like, yeah, no, we don't feel like doing much but R&R right now. But it happens. So I'm just kind of going with it. Just kind of going with it. Let's see, we have that there. We want to. This is going to be probably the trickiest one of all, because you're going to have to make a U-turn kind of on this, which means I'm going to pat this actually down now before I get too far in here, because it's about to do some things. And I want to keep the gauntlet on for this, just so I know it ends up where I want it to. And being as there's so much wire that's actually in here, this thing is super supported. It's not just going to slide out, which is perfect. I don't need to worry about that. Okay, there we go. We got those little details on. Again, they're not in your face details, but it's just a little something to kind of show that it's there. So now we can take all of these pieces back. I'm going to take you, and we have a whole fresh thing of clay here as well. And now we're going to go ahead and change some things. So let's actually, I'm going to actually shrink you a little bit so I can shrink you a little bit more. Let's actually fit. I've done this once before in prep, just to like, okay, I can do this in 2 seconds. No, let's take a little longer, get it right. Okay, so now we're gonna be finally get to the good part. And again, just in case you missed this from the earlier sessions, the reason this thing is always sitting on a box in a corner and whatnot is because the handle comes down lower than the base. This is meant to be sitting on top of like a desk or a countertop or something, and I don't have that situation here, so it sits on top of a box, and that is just the way it is. Okay, and the good thing is this is one of those where if everything goes well, if I get the first side done, the second side should be pretty straightforward, if only because this should be symmetrical in size. And realistically, at this phase, it's nice to go and kind of carve out the kind of decal stuff like that to help inform the painting. But I'm not sure I really want to carve out that detail this time. So I'm just, not 100% convinced that's the way to go on this one. So this may take a couple attempts to get it right. I'm basically going to do probably one go the first time, just to get like a template piece to then kind of go off of on future attempts. And it's going to be try one, find out what directions are wrong, and recut the pattern and whatnot until it actually works. And when it does work, then we go and we trace it onto the second size. On the second side, and then once we have both sides kind of cut to pattern size, then we can attach them and make everything look good in the end. So, first things first, we don't need this thing nearly this wide. So let's go and get rid of, I know I just did things off camera. Ooh, that's fine. Didn't miss much. Okay, distance actually isn't bad. We're going to be, ultimately I'm going to be cutting off right in here because his whole inside the scarf area is going to be gone. But up through that. Okay, so down low, he wants to be fairly low on this. Let's just say I have something like that going on. And again, I don't need this to be perfect right now. This will take several attempts. I am not a tailor. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to this kind of stuff. So we are doing the ultimate, just wing it till it looks good. And that is the system I'm going from right now. So we get a size that's kind of close to start with, and then we use that as templates to then make kind of the real thing. So now the important part that I'm looking for on this is I want to be not move whatever I was just on right now on that. Oops, give me a second on the computer. Is we want to be covering the correct part of the chest down here and kind of come down low enough. And effectively the biggest part I'm going for right now. We're coming out about as far as I want to up top. That seems okay. We're going to need to go up a little bit more. I think this coming down the chest seems fine. We're coming down pretty far just fine. So this, I don't think is too bad to actually start with. I do need this to come up, and then it does tie into his back, which yeah, the back almost just comes straight across into this, so this shouldn't really come lower than the back. So as long as we come something like that, something like we're going to want to come in more on the back side of this. So let's say you come out more like that. Ooh, this thing is going to look all kinds of ugly until it looks really, really good. But that is the way this stuff tends to work. So we just go with that. Okay, that's looking a little better. That's looking a little better. Let's put you back on. Oh, I have so many overlays going on right now. Let's turn the back off. Let's turn you off. And that's not too far off. We're going to come in almost a little bit. I don't want to come in too much more, actually. Don't want to come in too much. I think we're actually fairly... Actually, right about there is not bad, because then this back kind of comes straight across into it, which is pretty much what I'm going for. I just think I need this to be skinnier down here. Now he's going to have two parts. He has, let's put you on here. He has the main sleeve we have here. Then there's that band that comes down around here, around. It goes across the bottom of the back. So I'm going to be making the sleeve first and adding that after. And that's showing this kind of comes down a little bit more in there, and then up to that. So once again, we peel you off. We hope that when we did that, we actually cut it deep enough that I could see what I'm doing. I'm sorry I'm doing this off camera, but it's just easier doing some things looking down. It's easier to hold this thing up here and just cut it off camera than the other way around. So, kind of stuck with that. Okay, so what do we have? We have you kind of coming around the back, so that part's good. I have this down. I can always shove a little bit more stuff in there if need be to make that work. I have the upper parts going. And then I feel like we can add kind of, so I think I'm feeling okay on this. I'm feeling okay on this. Now it looks a little funky because again it's in its rough mode, but I think we're going to take that, I'm going to trace this, we're going to use it for the other side, and then we're just going to go from there. So what do I need? I need more clay because these pieces aren't wide enough. Now again, the area around the neck is 100% wrong. And I'll put this on a box. So. Boink. Okay. Let's see. That's no piece left behind. Okay, are we big enough? Yeah, we big enough to copy. Okay. If there are any tailors watching this, I'm sorry. I am making your profession look very bad right now. But even if this thing wasn't perfect the first time through, we're just going to straight up copy it anyway, and we're going to make this stuff look better as it goes. Again, we work from rough to fine-tuned. So I cut a little bit too much. That's a nice little easy doop 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 done. Same here. Whew, my throat. Took a little too much. Bam bam, done. There we go. Alright, so we got two pieces. We have some excess clay to work with, which we are going to work. I don't need that part of him. I need this. Okay, so how did I do this? I did this before. We're kind of the flat. Whoop, we're kind of the flat part of this. Stayed with that. That came up. You came around, and you kind of joined in there. And this is good. So we can then take this. We don't need it to go. Yeah, one thing we don't need is we don't need that to go around the shoulder area or go around kind of the neck, because we're going to have plenty of other stuff going around the neck and being good. So all I'm going to do now is we have that. We have you going over. So let's kind of push this in a little bit to smooth it and blend it out. I see that I'm short a little bit on that side. So either I need to change this a little bit so it comes up, or I can do a little altering. If I'm a little short down here, that's fine. Again, I'm going to be adding that band after, so I'm not concerned about that being a little short, because we can do that in quote-unquote post-production. Okay, so I can either blend the whole thing in, or I can just thin it out a little bit down here so I have physically less material to blend in. So I'm going to go with that option, kind of thin it out just a little bit so that when I blend now, I don't have as much that I need to worry about. Let's see, we need... Oh, again, I shouldn't be worrying about this underpart, because this underpart's going to be covered anyway once I get that band going on here. But at the same time, I just don't want to leave a piece like that. Don't need this piece here either. That's not at all correct. Get out of there. At the same time, if I push this band in, it's going to want to kind of take the shape of what I have. And this, I don't want this kind of molding in with the side of the chest or whatnot. We kind of want this to read as smoother, nice and neat going through. This fabric does have weight to it. I don't want to take away from that. So now is where things get a wee bit trickier. Nope, 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 nope. Don't cut that. Don't mess that up. Oh, and I was worried that between like the hour between the last session and this session, I wasn't going to have anything to talk about. And thankfully, we can talk about actually doing what I'm doing, which is great. It's going to be one of those sessions where we will be learning stuff together, how it's supposed to be done. Just like work, I always feel like I'm learning stuff every project, I think it literally has been like every single project I've done. I've been doing this for like getting close to 20 years. I'm like 19 years or whatever now. I've been doing my job. And pretty much every single project has something in it that has me going, well, never seen that before. And then you have to deal with this situation you've never seen before. And it feels like, yeah, between between the ones I work with and me, it's like we have, I don't know, 60 whatever years of experience going on. 50, 60. And more often than it should, it feels like we're just kind of winging things because we still encounter stuff that both of us are going, well, never seen that before. Winds up being good in the end, but it's like eventually you got to hit a point where you go like, yeah, okay, I've seen that. I know exactly what's happening. I mean, we do have that. That is true, but it just feels like disproportionately we hit the other points where it's like, what? What was that builder thinking? That guy was an idiot. Where did this come from? Homeowner do this? Builder do this? Somebody trying to cut corners when they shouldn't have? Latest one was taking out a vanity that was a little tiny powder room. It literally was 5 feet by 3 foot powder room with want to change the floor and it had wallpaper in it and want to take the wallpaper stuff off and kind of repaint it, make it look all a little newer, a little more less dated now. So I went over and took the vanity out, and it's one of those that was literally built in place. They may have ordered doors to go into it, but it was the walls of the vanity were built into the wall before the sheetrock was on. They then put the floor up to it and put the base molding covering the bottom edge of the wall of the vanity. After the base molding was put in, they then made the base to the vanity that the thing sat on and then built up from there. And it was just like, what were they thinking? How has anybody done anything in that order of operation to make it work? But, well, there it was. They did it that way. They sure did. So there's going to be a new one put in, but at the same time, it was a head scratcher. It was a head scratcher for sure. Oh, and here comes the hard part. You need things to work right the first time on these kind of floating areas, or else they are a pain in the butt to smooth out well afterwards. Yes, I'm using this as a backing so that I can kind of push up against something to smooth it with. Things like that I should actually be saying what I'm doing, because otherwise you're wondering, what? I don't get it. No, there's things to get. I'm doing things, I'm holding things for a reason. I'm physically constructing this stuff the way that I am for a reason. I'm not just holding it that way just because. It's actually being done to accomplish a specific task. And stuff like that, then it's good to know what the task is in case you run into a similar situation on your project later on. And you can either learn that, hey, that's a good idea, or you can say, I know a better one, but at least it gives you something to go off of. And that's the goal. I may not have the quote-unquote correct solutions for anything you might be doing, But what I can do is give a basis for you to kind of get an idea of how to start something, and then you can always make things better yourself. And again, that is kind of what this is about. And now the other thing is when you're looking at this, I think a 7mm thickness. We don't want this to feel that thick. So what I can do, and you're going to see a lot more of this when I get to the scarf, but I'll give you the sneak preview. In order to make that go away and kind of hide how thick things are, we can go and just kind of crimp the edge. Crimp the edge a little bit, and all of that disappears. And now when you see a thinner edge to the fabric, your mind is going to tell you that the whole thing is thin. And this is a trick that gets used very much so. If you look at, I had Rain from the Night Witch on here earlier when I was doing, what was it? I was showing the hand holding the sword I took off. That skirt was much thicker than you probably thought it was just looking at it. Because that employs the same thing. Use a really thick kind of use a really thick, I forget if it was double layer or not of the whatchamacallit, the clay, but you just go and kind of crimp the edges, and it looks like that. The scarf is going to be the same thing. You're going to definitely see that on the scarf. On this one, it's going to look a lot thicker than it is, because once you harden this stuff is not super strong in the end. So you need to give yourself a little bit of advantage so it doesn't just break on you. And so that is always kind of one of those goals, is just not let things physically break. And in order to do that, you want to add thickness to it. And that's what we do. You add thickness, and as long as you crimp the edge in the end, it reads a lot better. Okay, so what do I have next? I have you kind of, I just want to give a little bit of separation in there. So again, this sleeve reads as differently that. You can look in, you can't really see how things connect or don't connect or whatnot, and that is fine. We're a little bit rough all the way around. That's okay. Let's see, so I'm going to take you. I'm setting it down. I'm not going to move this thing over this time. That's probably about a 4-ish. And actually, we're going to make this a little longer. Okay, so before I go and jump onto the other side, let's go. I'm not even sure I need that. You know what? I think I need that. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if this is really in here or not, but I think I want to give just a little bit of an edge to what I just put on. So let's go. Again, we're going to go a relatively skinny line. I can bring you back over. Well, it's skinny enough that when I try to move it, it breaks. But I think I just want to put just a little bit of an outline here right on the edge. It'll help clean up the edge. Again, it adds thickness to this end part, which is going to actually stiffen it in the end, which is good, because again, given the medium that I'm using, that's actually going to be a benefit. Yes, I need to kind of have more stuff I need to then kind of crimp down and look good, but I think the benefit of this is going to outweigh the cost. It gives just... And this is after I was just saying how the other way is going to make it look thinner and all that. But at the same time, you can see this is a different element being added to it, so maybe it's not so bad. Am I on camera? No. Sorry about that. Being on camera will forever be the bane of everything I do on this project. It just will. Okay, I'm just going to do kind of the rough on here. Again, before hardening, I'll go and do a proper kind of molding on that. We're just giving it kind of that form. So that's on there. Now, what do we have going on the other side of him? So let's see. We have sleeves. We have that going on, aka you can't see a dang thing that's going on that shoulder because it's all completely hidden. Maybe now wouldn't be a bad time to take that gauntlet off. Oh boy. Okay, so we're coming down. Again, in this view, it's going to be looking out kind of like that, so that seems to be okay. Back is coming in. That seems to be fine. So this actually isn't too bad. So if we come to here, we're actually then getting his shoulders on. Okay, so let's see if we can... What time are we at? We're at that time. Let's see if we can make this shoulder look a little better. Up top there isn't too bad. So same thing as before. Bring you back down to kind of halfway down. Oop, as my camera's falling over. Cut some of this out of the way because it's not needed and it's going to be gone anyway in the end. I have you going down. And actually, in the other side, it's going to be squished down to the bottom of the arm. So this actually is going to be easier or less additional work to be done on this arm as opposed to the first arm. So that's actually really good. I approve. Fingernails. You can do this. Yeah, now a decent chunk of what's going to set this off is going to be, again, the artwork, the scroll kind of, the whatever decal work that goes on here. That's going to help sell it, I think, a decent amount. But that's in the painting phase. And I'm not sure if you're even going to see me do that. That might be unfortunately, that might be an off-camera part of the painting phase. Because usually if I need to concentrate super hard on detaily stuff like that, again, when I'm sitting like if I'm sitting like say 12 inches or whatever away, my arms are always there. That's a full extent of my arm, so I'm always pretty far away. It's hard to get those detaily things in. So there's not necessarily a guarantee I can do that physically on camera, but we'll see when I get to that point. But I think that is going to help this thing a little bit, and I feel like that's almost like a motto that I have for a lot of these. I keep getting I go like 2 steps ahead and I go like, oh, well, yeah, this is good. I've been waiting for this section, but it's going to look better when I get a little further. And then I get a little further and it's like, well, we're better, but just you wait. It's going to be more awesome still. Yeah, and this side, I don't have much I need to clean up. As long as kind of under here can read as something different, I think we're okay. Alright, so same as last time, I'm going to put a little band around the edge. We're going to get all these little pieces off the ground. Well, as many as I can get off the ground. We're going to do this, and then we're going to add the wider band that goes around his body, and that's probably going to take us to time. What are we at? Oh, we still have more time than I thought. For some reason I thought we were like just about over. Right, we have still like 15 minutes left, I think. Okay. I know that was off camera, but I just want to get this thing kind of stuck on here a little bit before I got going. Now, I know this type of attire has a name to it. I have no idea what that name is. So, forgive me for not saying exactly what this outfit that has the giant sleeves and stuff. There's got to be a name for that. But I couldn't tell you it. Either way, he sure's got it now. We in there. No. I need you to get kind of... Don't twist. Twisting is very bad. Okay, you're going up. That's good. That goes in. Let's slice that. Kind of join those two together by lightly pressing down in such a way that I can pop it back up again. Okay, and like last time, I'm going to kind of crimp this edge so it reads a little better. Again, I'm going to do a better job of this before hardening. I do want to get the big stuff done on camera here and just essentially save the little things for the end. But at the same time, I can show some of this little stuff that I'm doing. I love when I say that and have to like look at the camera and say, well, am I doing it on camera? Yep. Okay, cool. Actually, that time I was. I feel like most times I look on there, it's like, well, technically I'm on camera, yes, but I'm really at the corner of the screen. Now that time I was. Okay, so now we have Shazam. Okay, so the final piece, we're going to have a little bit thicker than the ones I had just been doing. Let's get all of these loose pieces up. I shouldn't be laying him on the ground anymore. That's probably a bad thing. This side just looks like it's bigger. It's really not. They're the same size. It just looks like it's bigger. Get in there. Hey. Maybe just because this side is scrunched up. This front side is kind of scrunched up a little more, and that side is just wide open, that it feels a little different. Although I could do something like that to kind of give it a little more oomph, a little more of a feel to it. Okay, anyway, we're going back to, what size? Oh, that was a 4. I'm going to stick you at a 6 for this. And we're going to want this piece to be kind of long. So to make it longer, we just fold you hot dog style, because we love grade school terminology whenever we can. Okay, you can't see what I'm doing off camera there. We're just sending it through. We get one big old long strip. Whoop. All right, big long strip of stuff. And I found already 2 more pieces that I missed before. Awesome. Okay, get you to be mostly straight so that when I cut this, I can get as long a piece as I can out of it. Okay, so this piece has a little bit of width to it. It's not going to be as skinny as the other. So we're going to start with that. There is more clay on the bottom of this guy. I acknowledge that. Now we're moving you out of the way, moving you out of the way. This was scraps, that's 100%, and this little disc coming at a different point in time. Like I said, if I had bonus time at the end of this one, I was going to do it. I'm not really seeing the bonus time, so we're just realizing that's actually skinnier than I want. So let's go ahead and take you and try that a little bit thicker. That does actually surprise me, because usually after cutting things they feel like they get thicker after you cut it, and that one definitely did not. Okay, that is way thin, so you get added to the ball. I'm just going to put this aside for right now. Oh, bang. We need to take you and slide you back over this way. Actually, are you better at this? Not really. Okay, there we go. That's a little more the size I want. So I can start it anywhere I want up top there. Once we get to this point, it's going to be Ripley's collarbone area. It gets covered pretty much 100% by the scarf. So I'm going to bring you around. Bringing it around. Okay, then we get to the problem side. And we know this. Up. This is what happens when you don't actually push it into place. Okay, what do we do down here? I think one thing I can do is I can skinny it up. Kind of right under there so it fits in a little better. So that we can bring this band over here. And we can look and say, okay, we have a little too much going on right there, so we can just cut that off. I would rather use this to remove the extra clay than the knife because I don't want to accidentally cut the thing itself. If I just put a little bit of pressure on there and it hits it the wrong way, I can leave marks on the clay, or the hardened part itself, which isn't bad. Again, I'm going to be painting it, so it's not a terrible thing if that happens. It's going to be hidden, but I just don't want to deal with that. We just want to get rid of extra clay that's on here so that both sides kind of feel like they're about the same size. So you go on there. And then it's going to come around. As is customary, just kind of merge the edge a little bit, or blend the edge. That's probably the more correct terminology. Again, not too worried about anything kind of going around the neck. The scarf is going to be right there, and all that should be more or less hidden. Came down here, we got through underneath relatively unscathed. That was always going to be the tricky spot. But I think it worked. I think it resolved itself pretty well. So okay, so we have that. We now have you in here. Okay, so we do have one thing we need to do. I need to make sure you pull out over there so that I can fit this in. The gauntlet shouldn't pinch that in. This should be out in front of the gauntlet. So I'm going to need to have you out while you go in. This actually I need to be when I make sure this thing gets hardened, I need to have it so it can everything can function correctly. That's going to be down there. That's going up. Let's get a head on here to see how we doing. So that's coming down. So okay, we're looking we're looking okay on that part. And now on this, let's see if we come back to his back. And give me 1 second. I need a bigger video. I need a bigger image for myself to go off of here, because I know there are seams on there and I can't see it on your preview. So give me 1 second here. Forward, 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 forward. I have so many images I need to go through. Not you, not you. Whoop, there we go. Zoom. Whoa, not that far. I know it's the pixeliest thing in here, but it looks like it gives not much going on this guy. So all you have really going on, whoop, I can slide you down and you come here, is it takes this back and it does add that. It looks like it adds one more kind of down there. And one more kind of here. I can't tell from that image if that's just a line to show his shoulder blade, or if that's actually a line for this purpose, but we can use it. It's kind of funny, I thought there was something in the front too, but I'm not seeing anything for the front. I come back to you. Yeah, I'm not seeing any lines in the front, so that might just be the only one. But in which case then, bam. We now have Bang wearing a shirt, or jacket, or whatever it is. Again, this will look, I think, a decent chunk nicer once we get this painted up and we have like the decal on both sides. That yellow pop is going to tie it all into this. I think that's going to look really good, but I'm not sure it's going to be worth drawing it out on here. That's just going to cause issues. But no, this is where we are right now. There's definitely progress now on the Bang project here. Let's go back to our original image. Hey! So now Bang's looking a little more like what Bang's supposed to look like. He has this here is popping out. That's good. That there's where it's supposed to be. That's good. And he's definitely looking more like what I want him to look like. And the next step's the fun one, because the next step now is where we start getting into that scarf. So really the main session of the next step is when I keep saying the scarf, you're probably thinking I'm doing the swoosh on the side. Now it's going to be done in several different parts. So the next part effectively is we have the scarf that then comes down around here first, and then after that I believe it's going to be making the next one, in which case his neck is all of a sudden feeling really short, but we will see. This thing is also super thick, so that's probably not helping when I do a little thing like that. So you know what, I have just like a minute. Let's just say I have like a minute to go on this. Let me just mock this up real quick, just for funsies. Because yeah, all it's really going to be is making that come down. And even that's looking a little heavy. That's going to make kind of the beginning of the scarf. And then I don't have any extra on me, but then it's gonna do that big whoosh going around. But for now, here's what we have. We have Bang taking form. So, real progress. He's looking okay. I don't know if it's 100% correct, but again, he's looking a little more like what he's supposed to look like. He still desperately needs hair, but we're not far from that phase at this point. And until next time, enjoy.